Please be ready for dictation from the Hindu editorial section dated 10th November 2021. Ready. An Indian fisherman was killed in fighting by the Pakistan Maritime Security Agency (PMSA) of Gujarat on November 7. This is the first such killing by the PMSA in the last 6 years, though conflicts over fishing rights are not infrequent along the international maritime boundary line between the two countries. 6 other fishermen have reportedly been detained, while one injured person managed to return to Indian shores. India has termed Pakistan's action deplorable and in contravention to all established international practices and bilateral understandings. On Monday, the Ministry of External Affairs summoned a Pakistani diplomat who was asked to investigate the incident and instruct its forces to refrain from unprovoked firing. According to the Gujarat government, a total of 345 fishermen from the state were lodged in Pakistan jails as on December 2020. In April 2020, Pakistani forces opened fire on 2 boats off the Gujarat coast, injuring 1 person, and in 2019, they sunk an Indian boat in which 6 of 7 fishermen on board were rescued. 1 person went missing. Fishermen often get caught in the fluctuating fate of the bilateral relations between the two countries, which is currently at a low. According to the National Fish Workers Forum, there are 558 Indian fishermen in Pakistani jails and 74 from Pakistan in Indian prisons. The forum calculates that 1,200 Indian fishing vessels are in Pakistan's custody. The families of these imprisoned people are in penury. Consular access to those in prison is difficult. Only 295 of the 558 prisoners in Pakistan could have their nationality verified. In 2007, both countries formed a joint judicial committee comprising 8 retired judges, 4 each from India and Pakistan, to facilitate the exchange of civilian prisoners. The mechanism has been defunct since 2013, and attempts to revive it in 2018 did not bear fruit. Civilians along international borders often get caught in disputes between countries, and India has several such hot spots on land and in sea. Even fishermen venturing near the India-Sri Lanka maritime border often fall victim, though both countries maintain cordial bilateral ties. Many Indian villages along the borders with Myanmar and Bangladesh also became theatres of conflict, as communities often find it difficult to reconcile with international borders that divide their traditional spheres of economic and social activities. Pakistan has aggressively sponsored violence in India, and terrorists trained by its agencies sailed in a hijacked Indian fishing boat in 2008 to Mumbai. It is a tragedy that ordinary people could end up in a foreign prison while trying to earn their livelihood. India and Pakistan must consider this as a humanitarian crisis and work towards resolving it, and both countries must avoid any escalation in tensions on account of the latest incidents. The Supreme Court of India continues to question the tardy progress in the ongoing probe into the October 3 violence during a farmers' protest at Tikonia in Lakhimpur Kheri district, a situation that reflects poorly on the Uttar Pradesh police and administration. In its latest expression of dissatisfaction, the court has indicated that it would like a retired High Court judge to monitor the investigation and has sought the state government's response. The court's apprehensions are not without basis. A large number of witnesses coming forward, ostensibly to help the police, have ended up giving exculpatory evidence. That is, their statements are in favor of some suspects. Another source of doubt about the fairness of the probe is that an overlap is being sought to be created between two FIRs registered in relation to the incidents, one relating to the mowing down of four farmers and a journalist covering the event by vehicles suspected to be part of the convoy of Ashish Misra, son of Union Minister Ajay Misra, and another concerning retaliatory violence by the crowd, in which three persons were killed. Counsel for the state government has confirmed at the latest hearing that Raman Kashyap, reporting for a television channel, was indeed run over by a car, with the court pointing out that an impression was sought to be given earlier that he was lynched by the mob. The idea of having a retired judge to monitor the probe seems to be prompted by the court's keenness to ensure that the two crimes are not mixed up. It would be in the public interest to have a judicial mind monitoring the probe. It would also have a salutary effect on the investigation as a precautionary measure against any attempt to dilute or derail the case. It is noteworthy that the judges on the bench appear to think that some of the developments redound to the benefit of a particular accused. It seems to be an oblique reference to the influential Ashish Misra. Such an impression will persist as long as the probe seems tardy and the gathering of evidence is marshalled towards exonerating someone. Both the Union government and the ruling BJP are silent on the continuance of the suspect's father as a union minister, a factor that casts a shadow on the investigation. The court is also not inclined to hand over the probe to the CBI and is possibly right in holding that view. Recording the statements of witnesses before a judicial magistrate, certifying the electronic evidence available so far, and piecing together the evidence to make a strong case for the prosecution may be a time consuming job. But what is expected of the state police is not a Herculean task. There can be no excuse for allowing the fairness of the probe to come under a shadow of doubt.